Hello, and welcome to the Legal Marketing Brief, the series where we showcase attorneys from across the country and learn about the strategies they use to market successful practices. I'm John Simpson, CEO of Convert Marketing. Today, we're sitting down with James Pope. James practices bankruptcy law in Houston, Texas. James has built his firm from grassroots beginnings to become a thriving, digital-savvy law firm. So with that, we hope you enjoy our discussion with James. James, one of the first things I like to ask everybody is, how did you decide to become an attorney?
Well, when I was in junior high school, I was a part of the teen court program in Arlington, Texas. And they had a program where you would be able to volunteer as a prosecuting attorney or volunteer as a defense attorney or serve jury terms for kids who had gotten in trouble along the way. So it was an alternative to whatever your trouble was. And so we got to volunteer and put those people on a trial. Everybody got community service. And at the end of every session, the volunteer judge would come down and talk to us about being a lawyer and this, that, and the other. And I just decided then that, okay, that sounds pretty cool. I think I might want to do this lawyer thing. So by the ninth grade, I'd made my mind up that being a lawyer was what I was going to do. So,
I got to say that's probably the earliest out of anybody that we've talked to, the earliest in their life that they figured out that they wanted to be a lawyer.
Yeah.
And that's a really unique experience. It sounds like you had with this teen court. I'm curious, were there any takeaways that you have from that experience that you learned specifically that you think about today?
It's one of the reasons why I still give back and mentor other youth, because the really pivotal part of the program, it was fun, but what made me want to be a lawyer was the volunteer judge taking the time out to talk to us afterwards. And not every judge did that, but certain judges would come down and just talk to us about the law, what they did, ask questions, have us sit behind the bench. And it was those experiences with that volunteer attorney that made me decide to want to be an attorney.
And then when you went on to undergraduate, what did you study in undergrad to prepare yourself for a career, ultimately to go back to law school?
Well, of course, I went into the pre-law program, which was political science, and I had a minor in psychology. And I started my interns in law firms right in college.
Well, so I have to ask. So I also had an economics major, but I had a psychology major as well. And in your practice today, do you use the psychology degree more than you thought you would?
Some days. Some days more than the counselor part of being an attorney definitely hits more days, some days more than others.
Right. Well, I'm sure in particular in what you're doing. So you've chosen to primarily focus in bankruptcy and foreclosure defense, but I also know you practice other areas as well. So can you give us a quick overview of where you primarily focus your practice?
Yeah, the primary practice is bankruptcy, but what I like to say is foreclosure defense or eviction defense. So I do a lot of temporary restraining orders to stop foreclosures from happening, helping individuals, mostly tenants, remain in their apartments or their leased premises. We do some contract dispute work also. I used to put myself out as a consumer protection attorney, but I noticed that a lot of the clients didn't know what that meant. But pretty much if you bought something or were part of a transaction and it didn't go right, then I'm here to help that situation.
Got it. And how did you eventually navigate your way out of law school into the practice that you're in now, and really focusing on bankruptcy?
It was an internship. I started interning at many different offices. I did a family law firm, did a criminal law firm, I did the AG's office. But I was in undergrad at University of Houston and did an internship at a bankruptcy law office. And it was one of those situations where he had more hands-on time with his interns and would sit me down and show me the practice of bankruptcy law, would go to court with him and go to 341 meetings with him. And so it was at that time I decided I'm going to be a bankruptcy attorney.
So what is it about bankruptcy law today that really excites you the most?
What I like most about bankruptcy is the bankruptcy bar. It's a place where you can practice law and you can litigate without being overly litigious. And you see the fruits of your labor quickly and daily. From the moment you file that case and you're saving someone's home, there's an immediate joy the client feels, an immediate sense of satisfaction and purpose that you realize that you've helped fulfill in helping this person keep their home or keep their car, keeping their most prized possession or asset in their hands.
So let me slightly switch gears for a second. One of the questions I always like to ask is, when you think of the clients that you've achieved the best results for, what would they say about James Pope when you're at your best? How would they describe you? And this is your chance to brag a little bit too.
I think when I'm at my best, my clients will say that I'm compassionate, that I'll give them the one-on-one feel where they can feel secure, they can feel at ease, that I'm generally able to calm the situation down and give them a clear plan of action on what to do. And so I think that's why the clients come back. I think that's why they refer their friends and their family members, because they know they're going to get something at this office that you don't get everywhere else. And that is compassion and empathy and the best work product I can give.
So let me ask you about the evolution of your practice. Can you talk us through sort of from the point at which you left law school, how have you evolved your practice and what have been some of the points along the way?
Well, when I first left law school, I was already at a bankruptcy office. Then I left there and went to represent mortgage companies at a large creditor bankruptcy firm, one of the largest in the state of Texas. And I stayed there for a couple of years, but realized my passion was in helping the individual. So I left there, and in August 2007, I started the practice up. And it started off as more of a general practice because I knew I wanted to do bankruptcy, but I needed to, at that time I was married and had to feed the family, right? So we started as a more general practice, and it just morphed into, as the bankruptcy cases picked up, I was able to slow down the other areas I wasn't as committed to. And that got me to where I am today.
And that timing, you said August 15th, I'm sorry, 2007.
Mhm.
That's right at the leading edge. Correct me if I'm wrong. Of sort of like when the Great Recession started to rear its head, right?
That's correct.
So now was that for just sort of dumb luck? I mean, you can say no. It
It
was
was
through
just it was
brilliance.
just luck. It was just luck. I mean, I had already said that I was going to work for someone for 3 years and then hang my shingle. And I was licensed in '04, and so when '07 rolled around, it was time. And then it just so happened that we were on that incline with the recession. And for a bankruptcy practitioner, that's when things really pick up because that's when folks needed the help with their debt, with their cars, with their homes. And so by 2009, I was a full-fledged, full-time bankruptcy attorney and had cut out pretty much everything else.
Wow. Yeah. So you started early in your legal career to have that level of focus. And
Right.
it's you've been doing it for 15 years. Then, if I'm doing the math correctly. Um, And because you were on the other side of the equation, right, which is the sort of mortgage side, and you had that experience, does that help you today to understand what various creditors are looking for and so forth?
Yeah, it not only helps to understand, but I still have some connections from being on that side of the fence. There are still a lot of people who like to maintain their jobs and they'll sit there 20, 30 years. So I still have people I can call at these various firms or at some of these mortgage companies who I knew then, worked with then, who can help me help my clients now.
Well, let me ask about your practice specifically. One of the questions that we like to think about with our clients is how they define practice success. And maybe a way to get at this question is, when you think 5 years down the road for James Pope's practice, like where do you ultimately want to be?
5 years from now, I would hope to be in a place where there is no other practice area other than bankruptcy. And just doing that exclusively at a place and time where it's comfortable. For me, it's more of a work-life balance. And I feel like I worked my 20s and my 30s getting all the hours in that I could, but 5 years from now, I would like to more coast into a better work-life balance. And if I could focus just on that practice area alone 5 years from now, I think that would be where I see myself.
Well, let me ask some questions more around sort of the marketing angle of the firm. So tell me a little bit about when you started to market the firm and what did those first efforts look like?
Very grassroots, let me tell you. I had no real law school taught you how to be a lawyer, didn't teach you how to be a business person, didn't teach you how to market it, didn't teach you any of that. And so I went and bought some books from Barnes and Nobles on what you should do to grassroots market your business, in particular, not a law practice. So I would just take cards and pass them out everywhere. If I was going through the toll, I'm handing you a card with my toll. If I would go to the parking ride, I'm passing out 100 cards. I'm sticking them in your window at the parking ride. If I went to a dry cleaner and I saw they let you leave your cards there, I was leaving a card. I started teaching classes. I ordered a lot of the free materials from the Federal Trade Commission on identity theft. And there was a conference room at City Hall in Houston they let you use for free. So I would reserve the hall, advertise that I had a free identity theft course, teach the people about identity theft, work in debt, budget, credit, bankruptcy to get you back to let you know that I do bankruptcy work. And then those people would also convert over into bankruptcy. And then I would do church meetings. If there was a small church, I'd reach out to see if they needed someone to come consult with them about debt, about wills. And whatever I did, I would kind of bring it back to the bankruptcy because I knew that was my primary area, but figure out another way to get my foot in the door and show people that bankruptcy was a viable option that they may not have considered before.
Yeah, that sounds like you took like a very like value added approach, almost like a thought leadership approach. Let me go educate folks about budgeting and financial planning and so forth, and the things to look out for if I'm catching the drift. That's a smart marketing technique. So when you think about your marketing today, what all are you doing? What does your marketing mix look like? I certainly know you have a website.
Converted marketing is really helping out with that and the social media presence, Facebook, Instagram, things of that nature. And then I try to make sure I network. You got to go to the bar events. You got to go to the local community events, the church events, to let people know that you're out here and that this is what you do, because memories will fade and they'll forget that you're out here if you're not in their face reminding them that this is what you do. And also in this practice, it's a volume-based practice. And often when they get their discharge, they're not filing again, most of the bankruptcy debtors. So you have to always be out there to keep your face for the new next person who might need your assistance.
Yeah, it sounds, I think just based on some of the other conversations we've had, it sounds like you're doing a really good job on the networking and community side, probably more so than most that we talk to. Let me ask you about the marketing landscape. So you started your practice in '07. Like, I think I first got on Facebook in like '08, and it had only launched like a year or two before that. So you had a lot of changes in terms of
changes.
Yeah. So can you talk a little bit about some of the major shifts that have occurred in marketing your practice over the last 15 years?
The sheer fact of how much more of it is online. When I first started email, it was still, even though I'm not that old, it was a DOS-based system. There was no HTML. There were no pictures in it or anything like that. And even my initial Yahoo website was just 3 colors: so burgundy, tan, white letters. And it was like that for a long time. I just didn't think of it as a way to bring people into the office. Whereas now, I really do rely upon the website, the Google, the social media. I get a lot of people who they'll see an ad go by, or they'll see it on the social media and reach out through there, either through the contact form or through a direct message or something like that. So just to shift to less of face-to-face, less person-to-person, and the virtual social media aspect has been a change. I'm more of a person who likes the face-to-face. I like the in-person connection, and I get most of my clients. There are some clients I've never met in person since the pandemic. One of my largest clients, I've yet to be able to shake his hand. He's from Dumas, Texas. I've never seen him in real life. We virtually met. We talk on the phone all the time. If you hear us talking, you think we're best friends and spend a lot of time together, maybe from college. But just the virtual aspect of how marketing works now is the biggest change over 15 years.
Yeah, I totally agree. The same in our business as well. It's really shifted. Well, we talk to a lot of lawyers, and I would be interested to hear, do you have any advice for somebody who's starting their practice today of things they should do from a marketing perspective and things they shouldn't do from a marketing perspective? Any lessons learned?
Absolutely. Definitely have an online presence, but keep it separate from your personal online presence. I would say that was a something that I learned. As I have an online presence for the firm, there are some people, when I was always posting it on my personal page, who didn't want to see that all the time. So they start to not follow you or think I'm always pushing the practice. But once it had its own page and I could market there specifically for the law firm, it was easy to turn people around into an actual client because they were there for the services that I provide. So definitely have an online presence separate from your personal online presence.
You're right, especially in your practice group where, look, people want to know you're a human, right? So,
Right.
but at the same time, they're there because they have a problem and they need help. And so the faster you can get them information, the more goal directed you can be with your social presence, the better off you're going to be. Let me switch gears once again. Now I want to talk specifically about the practice of bankruptcy. First, over the last, call it 4 years, what are the major shifts that you've seen in bankruptcy and foreclosure? What are the big trends that you see out there?
I would say the biggest trend that I'm seeing now in bankruptcy is the amount of people who are filing bankruptcy because of their personal property debt as opposed to the mortgage. It used to be most everyone filed a bankruptcy because they needed to stop a foreclosure on their home. But for whatever reason, there are more overextended on the vehicles, having more people come in with these fancy vehicles or these large car payments due to interest rates being high, during the car shortage that they had for a while. And a lot of people got taken on the car side of it. So I see more people filing now for cars and non-real property debt than I did before. Another is the number of younger people seeking bankruptcy relief has started to increase. Most of my clients before were 50 plus. I have a lot of clients now coming to me 30s, 40s, occasionally in their 20s, already seeking bankruptcy relief, a fresh start, discharge of debt, and they're coming in with 30, 40, 50, $60,000 worth of debt at 30, needing it discharged. And that has been a shift from what I was using to see in the past.
Yeah, there's a lot there. So maybe taking the first case where you're seeing more bankruptcy cases as a result of sort of non-mortgage related debt.
Right.
Is most of that the result of expensive autos, expensive interest rates caused by the pandemic type of thing, or is it just a trend towards people buying fancier cars that they can't afford? What's the cause there, if you had to guess?
It seems to be more of an offset of the pandemic because a lot of the larger car payments are for older used cars, but they're coming in with an 18% interest rate on a $30,000 car. It's as if they bought a $60,000 car with a 6% interest rate. So it's a result of the pandemic and the shortage because it's around that time where they've had the car just a few years and they're already needing the bankruptcy.
I'm guessing they're probably underwater on the car because the car market has now gone down, right? So the value of the car
Correct.
is not, they can't just sell the asset at the same price. Sure.
Mhm.
And then the other example you mentioned was around younger folks coming in to seek bankruptcy or some sort of relief. Again, I'll ask the same question. Like, what do you think the common theme is there? Is it a school debt situation? Is it overuse of credit cards? What do you see?
For the younger people, it's an overuse of credit cards, but generally because of some business venture they were trying to start. They started to go into the t-shirt business. They were going to go and become their own HVAC company after just getting the certification. This new generation, that particular generation, is very much into entrepreneurship, and they want to start their own businesses. They want to be their own boss. And again, college is teaching you a lot about the subject matter of what you're learning, but not necessarily how to run a business, how to market, how to budget. And so they start the business, get the loans, and then have an issue repaying the loans in addition to paying the other overhead that goes along with the business. Or those that did not understand the EIDL loan versus the PPP, or did not understand how to use the PPP. And so when they had to pay it back, they were completely unprepared for the payback of those loans or those obligations.
Yeah, no, that's fascinating, and I would totally agree. I feel like I'm a different generation from most of the people I work with at Converted Marketing, and I'll just say that like there's so much more of a hustle culture, side hustles and this and that, and people have their side businesses, and I think in many cases that's been very successful for them. But I could see which this a younger generation, Generation Y, or maybe even
Oh, yeah.
millennials, they are very entrepreneurial,
Mhm.
and so I guess I'm not surprised. But also, I feel for them, declaring or needing relief that early is,
That early. Yeah,
yeah.
that was a little bit of a shocker, and that's been happening more in the last 18 months or so. They're just getting younger and younger and younger.
What do you think the biggest misconception is around bankruptcy or some sort of debt relief?
The biggest misconception is that once you file, you can't buy a house. Once you file, you can't buy a car. Once you file, you're financially dead. And that's simply not the case. Uh, Bankruptcy is the yin to the yang of capitalism. And it's a tool to help you be able to truly start fresh. There are people who buy houses after bankruptcy. They buy cars after bankruptcy. They buy houses and cars during the pendency of the bankruptcy. There are different guidelines that the creditors, the lenders will have for you because you're in bankruptcy. So many people have filed bankruptcy now, they have to have different guidelines. Otherwise, the market would stalemate. Um, and so people don't realize that there are programs for you, the lenders have different qualifications for you, and you are not financially dead. It's more of a restart or a fresh start of your financial picture, as more than it is a deadening of the portfolio that you once had.
Yeah, I had always, I've had family members that have declared bankruptcy and so forth, and I've always had assumed and been told that, like, yeah, you're like financially ruined if that happens. Your BK at this point, your credit scores can go to zero. You never be able to rebuild it. But what I'm hearing is like, no, that's not the case. Like there are,
Mhm.
yeah,
Even when it comes down to like buying a car, people think I can never buy a car again. I'll never get a credit card again. There are some car dealerships that will only service bankrupt clients. They've made that their niche. I'm only going to give cars to people in bankruptcy. But why? It's a very particular reason why. When you get your Chapter 7 discharge, you can't get another Chapter 7 discharge for 8 years. Most car loans are only 5 or 6 years. So they don't have a concern about being put in a bankruptcy. Your
so
Chapter
it's less
13
risk for them.
Right. Your Chapter 13 bankruptcy discharge. You can't get another one for 4 years. So even if you get my car, the likelihood that you're going to keep it the whole four or maybe trade it in, I still have 4 years where you cannot discharge my debt. So the creditors will be looking to give you new credit card debt, looking to give you a car loan, looking to give you a mortgage loan because you can't discharge that again for 4 or 8 years.
Got it.